You specialise with the art apples or potato farming as such, and you told me a little bit with onions and so on. Is that that's a very important market? First of all, let's make sure of that, because just about every household in South Africa eats potatoes or onions. Here's my point to you: the importance of your being in the chain, the food chain. Young, aspiring, or want to be, or previously disadvantaged people trying to get into the farming community, it is too expensive for them to get involved in generalised farming, wheat, the dairy farming, capital cost. In your case, it's not. So that makes you very important.
Well, potato farming, the input cost is actually quite high, and hence potatoes can play a dual purpose. The one is getting involved from the small scale level and eventually working yourself up into the commercial environment, but it also plays a very important role in terms of food security. So as far as the food security equation is concerned, it's not only about maize, but it's also growing potatoes and having a more balanced diet than just eating maize meal. So it has many different purposes. One of our main thrusts within the organization, in other words, our core businesses, is our transformation area. There we have bursaries for students at the undergraduate as well as postgraduate level to study in potatoes, whether it's economics, whether it is food science, or whether it's plant pathology. Those opportunities are there. We also do have other programs in terms of farm-based training, where we partner with Agri-CETA in providing training to farmers as well as farm labourers. Then we have our social development program, which is more security-based, where we go into rural areas, identify communities, and through our field offices assist those communities to plant potatoes, and through that try and inspire young farmers to then go to a small scale level and then eventually go commercial. And then we have our new farmer development program, where we go out, identify smallholder farmers that has an interest in potato farming as well as the potential, and then provide support through various means to those particular potato farmers.
How much are you investing in the food security situation in South Africa?
Well, like I said, in terms of our transformational programs, one of the programs are specifically aimed at food security in very rural areas. So there's quite a lot of money going into those particular projects, as well as human resources, to ensure that we, first of all, educate people how to grow potatoes, and then ensuring eventually that they get a crop from that. As far as our research and development core business is concerned, we're mainly concentrating at this point in time on our technical research, in other words, diseases, soil-borne diseases, but we are changing our focus a little bit, and that is to understand our consumer a lot better. So what you will see coming out of Potato South Africa in the next couple of years are a lot more consumer-orientated research, with the particular aim of understanding the consumer better and also ensuring that we understand the food security needs of the consumer better, because potatoes can form a very important role of a balanced diet. And if you actually go and look at the test that has been done, comparing potatoes' nutritional value with certain other foodstuffs, potatoes actually come out top. The perception about potatoes as a fattening food is actually wrong, because it's the ways that it's being prepared that are causing those perceptions.
Where do you see the future? Short, medium term, long term?
Well, I think if in the short term is that we need to do some work in terms of fixing up some of our technical issues, looking at our fresh produce markets, because sales on fresh produce markets have gone down. We will have to see some additional value adding earlier in the value chain, for example, by producers, to capture a little bit more value at the farm gate level to keep primary farming sustainable. However, in the long run, our biggest challenge will be to grow the overall demand for potatoes. If we can get that right, we will have a growing potato industry, which will obviously then also contribute to food security because of the balanced diet element. channeling potatoes to organizations like the food banks. So it can play an equally important role as maize in providing a balanced diet to the really poor in the country.
If one looks at potatoes and biofuels, how do you see the future for the potato where biofuels are concerned?
Well, I think we haven't really explored that particular avenue. At this point in time, we produce enough for human consumption. We are not even producing enough for the processed industry, so biofuels is probably somewhat down the line on the agenda.
Because if you look at some of the BRICS countries like India and Brazil, biofuels rank very heavily at 23 and 20% respectively of their usage of biofuel. And also they're very, very concerned about the food security side of things. There has to be a balance between, you can't take from one to the other. Yeah. You're robbing it. Do we have and could we have the capacity of satisfying both markets by increasing by 25%?
Well, not necessarily related to potatoes, but we do grow crops in the country where we can increase our biofuel.
Yeah, I specifically meant potatoes, yeah.
If you look at the sugar industry, that's where Brazil is doing quite good. But I think we also need to remember that, in most of these countries, even in Brazil, government support plays a role in keeping those industries sustainable. So it's not only just a balancing trick between food security and biofuels, it's also where government has to spend its money. In South Africa, that money is being spent on our particular socio-economic and political pressures that we have. For example, our Mafisa, our CAS programs in terms of rural development. When you look at a country like China, if you look at a country like Brazil, they're spending a lot of that money in rural infrastructure. They're spending it on investing in their young in terms of training institutions, R&D. So the spend is a little bit different.
Imagine the difficulty here which government has in so much as there's the dairy farmers, there's the poultry farmers, there's the potato farmers, there's the grain farmers. How do you all get to a table, call yourself the farmers, and all come to an agreement?
Yeah, well, I think that's one of the most...
Because each one of you wants something from the minister.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most challenging issues that we have. Because, even if you look at the subsectors, you also have farmers, the dualistic nature of commercial versus smallholder farming, and then you can even go a little bit lower to our subsistence level. And many of these have similar needs, but they also have quite different needs depending on their level of development. At the end of the day, it will all be about sustainability in the long run. Because whether you're a smallholder or whether you're a commercial guy, sustainability in the long run will be an ultimate goal. So it's quite a difficult balancing trick that government currently has to perform in getting all of these things right.
It's easy to criticize, but it's not so easy to fix.
Yeah, and I think that you're entirely right, and hence the reason why I think government should also give some of the responsibility to the private sector and say, listen guys, assist us in fixing this, but then we need to sing from the same song sheet in terms of our end objectives are concerned.
And that's your plea for the future. Let's sing from the same song sheet.
We definitely have to sing from the same song sheet, otherwise we're going to look in different directions. And I think that is definitely possible. Rome wasn't built in a day, but at least we need to build the road in the right direction if we want to reach a mutually beneficial goal.
Where does the leap of faith come from, you or the government?
Well, I think it will be from both the private sector as well as from government. I think, if there is any space between the two, that space can definitely be closed down quite significantly and quite fast, because the end goal is actually the same. Everybody wants sustainability, everybody wants to ensure that there's food security. Eventually it's investing in our young and attracting our young into agriculture. Currently we even struggling in attracting our young and nurture the current talent in agriculture, and we need to close that gap, because that's when we get that right.